The Deep North is currently Valheim's worst biome and takes the ninth spot, but unfairly as at this stage being incomplete and serving as a placeholder until Valheim's 1.0 release. For now, the North Pole is a barren wasteland with sparse trees and only unique feature being its floating ice plates and native northern salmon caught off the frozen coast. However, with rumors emerging teasing features currently under development for this biome, such as creatures larger than any existing boss, new weapons for every class, and a whole lot more, this biome may very well find itself much higher on this list in 2026. Edging out the Deep North at number 8 is the Ocean biome, and like the North, finding itself low on this list for its lack of content. Despite the 10th world being composed of a series of islands separated by vast ocean, it leaves a lot to be desired. Unlike any other biome, you won't find a boss to battle here, with only one new creature to fight, unless you consider the floating Leviathan as creatures to conquer. That said, the Iron Gate team have expanded this biome since the game's release by diversifying the fish and adding a 4th ship with the Ashlands update. Despite this, I recently speculated in my State of Valheim video that since Iron Gate has promised at least one other update before leaving early access with the Deep North, my guess is that this just might be the revamp to the ocean we have long been waiting for. If they do revamp this biome, what would you like to see? Personally, my number one priority would be further ship customization. The Ashlands cracks the top 7 and marks where the difficult decisions begin to be made. Now, don't get me wrong, I still really like this biome, but when compared to the others, it leaves something to be desired. Docking in the Ashlands for the first time presents the greatest challenge yet for Vikings, with an overwhelming number and variety of creatures and fortresses to overcome. That said, unlike many, it was not the difficulty for me that lowers its standing, but rather a level of sameness or lack of diversity, both in its content, terrain, but also things like its color grading. Not to mention the struggling performance and relentless lag in multiplayer. Despite this, the Ashlands has a ton to offer with another iconic casual music theme, likely the best and most epic boss fight the game offers, and the most variety ever with 3 armor sets and massively customizable weapons with rooting, lightning, and blood gemstones to choose from. To take this biome to the next level, I would suggest adding dungeons inside fortresses for an added challenge and deeper experience, which I believe was originally considered by devs but never made it into the final build. That said, we must remember the game is not yet finished, and it's been stated that Iron Gate would like to add something new to every biome before 1.0 release, so we may yet see fortress dungeons added to the game. Number 6 marks the beginning of controversy with the introduction of the damp, dark, and daunting swamp. Entering the marsh for the first time is where many a player's Valheim journey ends abruptly, with the spike in difficulty turning many new players away. Despite this, the biome has a ton to offer with a huge variety in creatures, resources, and dynamic boss fight improved further with the addition of the Bogwitch NPC, offering powerful feasts and meat ingredients. Fortunately, players are rewarded handsomely for overcoming the presented challenges, yielding many of the most powerful tools in Valheim, such as Bowmaster's Forsaken Power, underrated Huntsman Bow, and powerful Root Harness. All that aside, the difficult terrain, unavoidable wet debuff, and fear of poison makes for a difficult and often painful landmass to overcome. Plus, offers a weak soundtrack for a game that typically excels thematically with its tunes. If it were up to me, I would add a waterproof cape or dry potion to prevent wetness, more mobile than the shield generator, even if it were an item unlocked well beyond the swamp progression. The reason for this is, as Valheim veterans know, iron is likely the most in-demand metal, requiring players to return to the swamp again and again, well after leaving Bowmass in their dust. The slog that is iron grinding, combined with the drag that is navigating its terrain, leaves the swamp low on the list. Breaking into the top 5 is the mountains, whose final position flip-flopped many times while I wrote this video. In the end, it was the biome's frost caves that ultimately elevated it to the 5th spot. The Ulv and Cultist containing cave labyrinths present some of the most interesting and dynamically designed creatures, except bats. F those guys. Combine that with a killer soundtrack gives us the best designed dungeons Valheim has to offer. What further sets the dungeons apart is the variety, making for a unique experience with every single one. Cultist dwellings, deep icy caverns, and even the rare and elusive tetra pools and ice lakes. You never know what you are gonna get. Better yet, Fenris hair found inside allows for the crafting of my favorite armor set in the Speedy Fenris. The soundtrack of the Biomes Overworld 2 is fantastic and covered with a diverse set of creatures which are a blast to do battle with, only improved further with the Fenring appearing after dark. Overall, it's a fantastic biome with few criticisms, which admittedly will become a pattern as we progress into the top 4. That said, at times it can feel a little empty, and don't get me started on the frustration of dying from fall damage on its treacherous slopes. Further, Modra's boss fight, while in concept should be fantastic, tends to be the buggiest and often most frustrating boss to fight across the whole game. Incredibly, not managing to break into the top 3 and speaking to the strength of the biomes to come is the arguable best first biome for any survival crafting game ever made, the Meadows. This biome is a soft introduction to Valheim, teaching players the basics of the game through its various creatures, resources, and eventual straightforward but far from cakewalk in Eikthyr. The beauty of this biome is unmatched, weaving its dense forest between vast open valleys perfect for base building, not to mention perhaps the best casual soundtrack of any biome. So good in fact that I often listen to the Meadows theme when working on my YouTube videos. All that said, one thing that sets the Meadows apart from the other biome and what I wish other biomes did more of is introducing resources and items that are inaccessible until progressing beyond the biome. The key example of this is Finewood, while located within the Meadows, can't be accessed until acquiring the Bronze Axe from the subsequent Black Forest, forcing players to return to a previously conquered area of the game. Similarly to the treasures buried underneath the earth can only be acquired after defeating the boss and crafting the pickaxe. Design like this that provides incentive to return to previously cleared biomes is something I value highly and would like to see more of, hopefully in the future. Bursting into the top 3 is the Plains, sharing many resemblances to the Meadows, but adding higher level of difficulty and more variety. The ever-flowing grasslands presents many players' favorite base location for its fertile earth and open landscape. The biome presents likely the most variety in creatures from the Sticky Growths, Relentless Feeling Clan, not to mention what I think to be 2 of the 3 most iconic creatures in the Lox and Desquito, only surpassed by a creature in the biome ranked number 2 on my list. That said, what I truly love in this biome is the variety in progression. Most biomes typically require the player to find the new biome's metal, mine it, smelt it, and craft the new weapons and armor. The Plains flips this on its head, with rather than mine the metal, you need to slay and loot the goblin horde. For me, this proved to be a much more interactive and fun way to gather a new biome's resource. Further, Flax is the first progression-tied resource that isn't metal, making for a nice change of pace. Beyond all that, the Plains introduces all kinds of new content for builders and chefs alike, with the introduction of the oven and darkwood build pieces following the draining of tar. Not to mention, the Yagluth boss fight has the best soundtrack of any, making for a heart-pumping battle. If I had to offer criticism to this biome, many people do cite the occasional emptiness across its grasslands, where vast distance can be covered without citing fueling, tar pits, or any other points of interest. Oh, and give us a second option for armor other than the padded set. Come on, Irongate. And lastly, many players cite the lack of a dungeon in the biome as a disappointment. Personally, I disagree. In my opinion, the fueling villages fulfill that role nicely, and therefore think the Plains are fine without. Taking the silver medal is the infamous Black Forest. This biome is so good that Irongate development team has the internal mantra when designing a new biome that states, "What would the Black Forest do?" This mantra speaks to the incredibly satisfying look, feel, and in my opinion, density of content and extremely satisfying progression. Every inch of this biome is covered with useful resources from thistle to blueberries to mushrooms, carrot seeds, and of course the copper and tin veins scattered across the dense forest. Combine that with the creature variety of skeleton and great earth clans locked in internal conflict and most underrated biome soundtrack, making for a timeless game area. And all that is said without mentioning the most iconic creature in the game and the loud stepping and bellowing troll. Nothing is as terrifying as your first encounter with these beasts, or more satisfying when you take down your first ogre to be rewarded with its hide for the iconic troll hide armor set. Further, this biome consists of 2 types of dungeons with the complex and varied burial chambers and caves where the troll reside. The progression too enables the opening of the rest of the game and in many ways is where Valheim truly begins. Following the smelting of bronze and acquisition of Surtling cores, you will be equipping yourself with much more powerful tools and accelerating your exploration with the recipes for the Carve found with the bronze nails and portals from finewood and cores. If I had to provide any criticism, it would be the long drag that is bronze acquisition. So much so that I often skip many of the bronze weapons and armor due to the sheer length of time it takes to gather the metal. If it were up to me, I'd consider making the recipe of bronze to require equal amounts of copper and tin. And without further ado, and surely most controversial pick is my number one biome in Valheim in the Mistlands. Now hold up, before you lose your minds in the comments, you must hear me out. I know the criticisms, the stamina draining cliffs, the lack of visibility. I get it, and I will share with you my suggestions to mitigate those downsides. But first, you must hear why I think it's the best biome the game has ever delivered. The first of 4 key traits that make it the best is its uniqueness. Variety in a game's biome is of the utmost importance for me. I want each to be a truly transformative experience, with the Mistlands delivering on that promise better than any other. The visibility reducing mist, for one, is an obstacle like none other. While it does hide the beautiful landscape, it also makes those rare moments of clarity that much more special. Secondly, the mystery and scattered breadcrumbs across the hidden world reveal details of previous creatures and civilization not clearly depicted in any biome before it. The ancient skulls and weapons of giants which once called this world home, the broken marble structures suggesting a larger civilization long gone, not to mention the Dveigr themselves braving the mist in their marble structures. Third, the creatures that inhabit this biome are vastly different from any previously seen, with the variety of the Seeker and Soldiers balanced with their airborne and iconic Jarl and their disgusting offspring. In many ways, the Mistlands not only adheres to the Black Forest mantra, but surpasses it by taking the best elements from other biomes. The Jarl being the Mistlands troll, the conflict between Dveigr and Seeker resembling that of Skeleton and Greydwarf, and the infested mines do the best Frostcave impression of any biome. Fourth, and perhaps the best part of the biome, is the introduction of Eider and spellcasting staves. This is where I reward the development team for their boldness to transform combat in Valheim with magic, adding a whole new layer to combat, and a fantastic one at that. Of course, the Mistlands is not the perfect biome despite being awfully close. To take it to the next level, players deserve a way to mitigate the mist. I think the Wisp-Blight should be upgradable to increase its mist clearing radius, or alternatively, following the defeat of the Queen, provide a mechanism for players to modify the intensity of the mist should they choose. That said, I have no doubt the Deep North will rip the top spot from the Mistlands' hands when it releases, and I break down my speculation about it in my review of the State of Valheim in 2025 right here.